currently have sort of a social stigma at my university that depression is a choice and a sign of weakness. And I know that I'm definitely not happy. How do you detect this, and how are you dealing with it currently? If you don't feel comfortable answering, well, I do. I'll answer it. I think I can answer it without being like super depressing. I agree. When I was in college, there was a really big stigma about being depressed, and I'm sure I was depressed at the time. And I think it's really, well, I think it's changed, but it's really fucked up. Because I remember at my college dorm, there was a sign on the wall with like Prozac, and it was some kind of insinuation that like, if you take it, you're weak or something. Or not, that was the subtext, because it was really like, how fucked up is society that everybody's taking Prozac, right? And the insinuation is like, oh, you don't need that shit. I wasn't on anything like that, but I agreed. I saw that and I was like, oh, yeah, everyone's on drugs, you know. The idea of treating depression was something like, yeah, it was very stigma. It was like I said in our update video, it's not sexy to be depressed. It's like, it's pathetic. It just sounds pathetic.
I feel like there's two kinds of depressed. There's like everyone is depressed, and then there's like the real depressed that needs treatment. And maybe people just like combine it. So
well, the people who, the people who, everyone gets depressed sometimes.
Yeah.
But people who get depressed sometimes don't understand what it's like to be depressed for 2 years.
Yeah, so that's why I think
there's a disconnect. It's just a disconnect. It's a misunderstanding. But be that as it may, you know, I think I've been depressed for a really long time, and I remember I always knew that I had really severe anxiety. I mean, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder when I went off to college, and it was like really crippling all throughout college. And I had accepted that I had a problem. But I remember the first time when we were living in Israel, I saw a psychiatrist because of my anxiety was really bad. Or maybe I was having some kind of weird thing and I just wanted to talk to a therapist. And he had said, it was a therapist, and I was talking about my symptoms, and I was like, you know, I'm anxious, and there's this one thing that I get all the time that I still get, which is that I get like foggy brain. And I feel like not myself. I feel like I'm having a bad high. And I really hate that feeling. It's awful. And then the therapist was like, oh, so it sounds like you have depression. And that shocked me. I was almost offended. I was like, I have anxiety, not depression. I was actually genuinely defensive. And I was like, what? Fuck you. I have anxiety. And my reaction was very much like, fuck you, dude. And that was like, that must have been like 7 years ago, probably. That was when we were living in Ramat Gan. And I've never treated it or anything like that. But I've been like desperate enough where I was like, oh, I need some fucking help. And so that's why I want to talk to that guy. And I just remember being really defensive. And that was so long ago. And now it's come to the point where I've slowly kind of realized that like my anxiety has given way, that it's morphed into something else. Like in college, my anxiety was just this crippling, I don't know. Well, it's frequent that anxiety and depression go hand in hand, you know? And so, yeah, the more I thought about it and the more time I had to accept it, I realized that there's probably at this point more depression than there is anxiety. And it's kind of like I addressed the anxiety because I accepted that that's what I had. And so, but the depression, I didn't want to have it so bad that I ignored it and never addressed it. And so now I feel like now I'm really accepting it after looking back and thinking how I feel. I mean, look at the, just read the symptoms, man. For me, it's like, yes. Like, let Let me read this off. Like, if I go there now. But it's so, like, you know. Here, let me see. This shit was like fucking 100% yes. I'm just trying to find this list of symptoms. Come on, for fuck's sake. Let's see. Some signs you might have depression: sad, empty, anxious, helpless, worthless, or guilty, hopeless, irritable, less interest in activities, less energetic, trouble concentrating, changes in the way you sleep. I sleep great. That's not it. Everything else, though. Changes in appetite. I'm always hungry. Aches and pains. Not really, actually. But everything else, like sad, empty, anxious, always. Helpless, worthily, guilty, always. Like, I got to the point now where I was like, I'm really now decided to, like, actually treat this because it's become unbearable for me recently, is that I'm, like, always at war with myself in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, torturing myself, like, every little thing, like social things, past things that happened a long time ago, things that happen now on day-to-day basis, small things.
Like, you'll say something and then you're like, oh,
torture myself.
why did I say it?
Or I'll do something, anything, but it's like I'm always feeling guilty over just like the dumbest things, like, and you know that, but just always at war with myself in my head, hopeless, pessimistic, you know. Yeah. Irritable, big time, fucking so irritable, and I hate being irritable, because you know, like, you know that you shouldn't be, but you are. That's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't help it. You just like, fuck, everything annoys me, but
Mm-hmm.
and I so don't want to be an asshole. I so don't want to be an asshole right now, but I'm just so irritated. I hate that, and I would feel that all the time, like all the time, every day. So fucking miserable. And it's exhausting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm fucking not that pleasant to be around most of the time. Loss of interest in activities. I don't have hobbies. I don't enjoy doing anything. I used to love playing video games, and for the past years, like, I don't even listen to music. I don't even enjoy listening to music. Less energetic. Yeah. Tired all the time. Trouble concentrating. It's so hard for me to do shit. Trouble remembering details. Hila? Do I have trouble remembering details?
Like, where's your wallet?
Zip code?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Oh, that would drive me crazy. Ethan doesn't know the address of his home.
Well, I do, just not the zip code.
No, you don't.
I do, just not the zip code.
Well, that's like half of the address.
Not. Nobody.
What else do you need to know?
I don't understand why people ask for zip codes anymore. Here's the fucking address. Here's the city. You don't need the zip code.
Maybe I'm irritable too, but oh my God, every time Ethan will ask me, what's our zip code? It's like, it's your home address.
I don't know. I can't remember zip codes. Overwhelmed to make decisions, whether big or small. I mean, dude, it was like just... I mean, I was at the point recently where it was like, I cannot continue to live my life like this. I will do anything. And you guys might recall me saying that I had like this bottle of antidepressants by my bed for the longest time because I feel like I hadn't tried everything first. And I feel like I took 3 months and I actually did make a lot of positive changes in my life, but I still felt awful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess not. I made a pretty good... for me, the biggest...
we made changes.
The biggest thing for me was like getting away from social media,
we're
and taking a break from YouTube, but it's hard to know because sometimes it's like leaving YouTube sometimes makes you more anxious.
Yeah, definitely.
And then everyone else gets upset, and that makes you more anxious, and so it's hard to know what is the right thing for you or whatever. But anyway, I don't know. I've never gone to therapy either. I have my first therapy appointment on Monday. Pretty excited. He's gonna fix me, right? I'll be like, all right. You know, I went to a therapist once through Kaiser, which is our healthcare, And it was such an awful experience. I never want to go again. I show up. It's like McDonald's therapy. I show up, and right out the bat, you know, you expect that it's always like, tell me about your family. Where'd you grow up? Like, get to know the guy, get comfortable. So I sit down, and I swear to God, this is what he does. He goes, all right, so what's wrong? What do you want to talk about? Like, what's bothering you? What's wrong? I was like, whoa. Like, fucking gotta treat a girl to dinner before you fuck her. You know? He goes, I was just blown away by that. He's like, what's bothering you? We have 30 minutes. Come on, I got a lot of patience here. It was fucking crazy. I felt so uncomfortable through the whole thing. Because I don't know this guy. So I was like, well, we've got a bunch of ads on my YouTube channel that I don't want to do, and I don't feel like making content, but I have these obligations, and I don't. He's like, so, tell me, how do you make money on YouTube again? It was fucking awful. I love that. That's like a great meme. So tell me, what's bothering you? What's on your mind? Well, my father raped me when I was a kid, and all right, well, here's what you do. Just forget all about that. Crazy. So I'm going to a private therapist that came highly recommended from a friend. I'm really excited. It's in Beverly Hills, so you know he's fucking legit. Yeah. Yeah. But to answer your original question, I took a bit of a tangent here. Your original question was, how did you confirm and admit you were depressed? Well, for me, it took me a long time. Because I was embarrassed and ashamed, and I felt like people around me, it's kind of an embarrassing thing, too. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'll get over it.
I got an email. If people just don't understand. I got an email from someone. They're like, anyway, whatever. People don't understand. But to you, I would just ask yourself, I mean, you clearly are aware that something's off and you're not happy. There's clearly some aspects of your life that you're not happy with, that you're not comfortable with, that you would like to change, that are causing you to feel possibly depressed. I would consider looking at these symptoms, because for me it's really just been crippling, and a large part of the reason why we've just been gone for so long. But also, I'm not, a professional. I can't diagnose you, so you should see a therapist. I feel like everyone. I know it seems like a luxury, but actually, a friend of ours was telling us, like, there's
cheap.
What was the name of this place? She said.
I don't remember, actually.
Well, they have therapy on a sliding scale. So if you're broke, you can go see a therapist for $20.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's ways to figure it out, but. Ultimately, I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to suffer. You don't have to carry it. You got to make the decision that you're just going to fight it, right? You don't want to be a victim to it. So fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're just wasting your time on this earth feeling miserable. And what's the point of that? So do what you can, Because there's a lot of people before you that have dealt with it and gotten out of the woods, and they're really smart, and they are there to help everybody else because it sucks. They're there to help you with therapy. These guys are geniuses, these therapists. They have studied. They have PhDs. They have studied this shit for decades. They know how the brain works, right? That's something. I'm just a guy. I don't know how the brain works, right? But they can get in your head and untangle shit and understand you in ways that you can't. They've got drugs that help ease the burden while you figure it out. You don't have to be miserable. Oh, well, if you already are miserable, what do you have to lose anyway? Who gives a fuck?
Mm-hmm.
It's like at a certain point, nothing else matters but getting better. Because what does anything matter if you're that miserable? It's just like, what else at that point matters at all, except prioritizing number one, yourself, and getting better. You can't help anyone around you. You can't do anything for yourself or anyone else until you feel better. So that's my opinion. Yeah. And depression's on the rise, you know. More people are feeling it more than ever. Because my theory personally on that is that the world is increasingly complex, complicated, difficult to find your place in the world, to find a spouse in the world, to find a career, to find a purpose, to make money. Everything is so hard to figure out that, and we carry a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, a lot of bills, a lot of responsibility.
Our generation, especially, like, who can afford a house?
No fucking buddy. Like, I think about our situation. We are fortunate enough to have been able to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know the feeling from just a few years ago.
Dude,
we've worked all our life and we weren't even close.
We were statistically anomalous with our like success.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that we were able to make in a short time from being successful. But we've been, like you said, just a couple short years earlier, making like $30,000-$40,000 between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's impossible. Yeah, you're like, buy a house. Never happening. So I wonder, when we're in this anomalous, like unbelievably lucky situation, how the fuck does anyone else have a chance? But it doesn't. But again, you can be at any station of life, and still, life is complicated in this day and age, with the internet, with the cars, with bills, responsibility. You know, I'm more depressed now because I feel more lost in my purpose. And like, I actually heard it put really good. I don't remember who said it, but it's like when you have money and like financial safety, all that's left is in your head.
I think I was talking to you about that because I was saying before that you're always like, well, if only I could afford that trip, I would be happy. But until then, I can't afford it.
Or if I just
or it's like if only I could afford this house, that would be perfect.
My thing was like, oh, if only I didn't pay rent. If I had free rent, I'd be set for life.
So you always have this like,
you're chasing a goal.
Then I'll be happy. Right now, I'm not happy because I can't afford it.
But you work towards it and it gives you purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But when you can afford it and you're still not happy, then it's like, what is that thing that will make me happy?
Yeah. But anyway, I'm in a rare situation. It's hard to relate to what I'm going through there.
Yeah.
But just generally speaking, life is so complicated. Like, think back 50 years, people didn't have phones, they didn't have fucking internet. They just like worked on farms. I genuinely think that like, if you just woke up at 8 a.m. and worked on the fucking farm for 8 hours and went home and ate dinner and chilled, it's like, that's simple, man. There's nothing to crave.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that like modern day life really goes against our fundamental instincts as animals. Like, billions of years of instincts and expectation of what life is and how to survive. That's what it is, right? Billions of years of survival instincts have all of a sudden, in the past 100 years, completely betrayed us. Because all of a sudden, these survival instincts that we've inherited over evolution, billions of years, are no longer relevant at all.
Yeah.
Right? And that's fucked up. So I think a lot of people have trouble adjusting.
It's weird because also you all of a sudden have a lot of opportunities that you didn't before, and you have a lot of, there's a lot of good that came with it.
Sure.
But it's also crippling.
Yeah. So, I think that I think it's important to bear all that in mind. That life is really can be very challenging and confusing and overwhelming. It's like, my God, who can balance all those things? When instinctually I just want to go plant some carrots. Right? Or go gather some berries or some shit. Or go kill a deer and then chill in a teepee. So anyway. Looking forward to the essays of disproving my theory. But that's just my thoughts. And if you disagree, you're wrong. Anyway, I wish you all the best, and yeah, you should don't be afraid to seek help, and don't feel weak, because you are not alone, and increasingly less alone.